Okay, I'm very excited. Was waiting for it for so long. Very high expectations. Cześć, it's Michalina from Coffee That Gives a Pack. Today I am sharing very special moment with you. I'm opening a bag of coffee on the camera. I know it sounds like it's nothing special, but it definitely is because the coffee is very special. My plant is drying. Yemenia. For most of you, this doesn't say anything. Like, it doesn't look any special except that it's in a pretty container. It's fair enough because this is very, very new coffee. But get this! They say that this is a coffee's chance for a better future. But let's start from the start. Ladies and gentlemen, coffee is at the risk of an extinction. World Coffee Research predicts that demand of coffee will be only increasing. But first of all, the area suitable for growing coffee decreased by 50% by 2050. Because of the food insecurity, poverty and farms dominance, there's less and less people willing to stay on a plantation and to cultivate coffee. As Michalina there from episode 2 was very right. Coffee production does face a lot of many kind of problems nowadays, and the world is looking for a solution for those. This coffee was only recently discovered, but it presents a potential for making the coffee growing easier for farmers and also a chance for us, coffee drinkers, to not to have this perspective of one day not being able to drink any coffee. Let's drink this coffee together now! I'll give you a little bit of background first, why this coffee is so special. Well, at first, coffee growing conditions in Yemen are extremely difficult. I think it's fair to say that they look a little bit like the conditions everywhere else in the world coffee production areas might look like in a decade or two. There's very, very little rainfall. The coffee is not even processed with washed meat that's there anymore because there is literally no access to water in many, many places. They experience really high temperatures during the day. It's even up to 30 degrees Celsius, and that is way more than coffee trees like. On the other side, the temperatures at night drop down very low, even to 0 Celsius degrees or even below that, and in any other places in the world, coffee trees wouldn't survive those temperatures. The infrastructure or the transportation of the coffee from Yemen to other countries is also very affected by the results of civil war that the country was experiencing. The poverty is a huge problem of the country. Farmers don't have any savings to invest back in the plantation. Taking all of this into consideration, it's very surprising that the coffee still grows there. Although Yemen is a place where the coffee started to be cultivated first. No other country did that before them. It originated in Ethiopia and Sudan, but on a larger scale they started to become a country of coffee production as the first one, and it goes back to over 600 years ago. So it's a pretty big piece of time. So that already is quite significant when it comes to the history of the coffee in Yemen. But this coffee proves that there is yet still so much to discover with coffee industry. Even in the countries where the coffee was growing for centuries, there is still so much to discover. And like in this case, this coffee came from Yemen, but only recently, a little bit more than a year ago, researchers announced that they've discovered a totally new group of coffee varieties. This is one of them. The varieties that are very resilient to very rough climate over there, so that's already a big bonus. But also after a bunch of tests done by them, bunch of tasting and grading the coffee, it's supposed to be delicious. So the specialty coffee industry, many coffee professionals, coffee companies around the world turned their interest into Yemen big time. Of course, because it was kind of a revolution. It's not that you discover things like this on a daily basis in the coffee world. So everyone was extremely excited about it and hyped to try it. I saw so many people trying that coffee online in the YouTube channels, social media. I wanted to have my own opinion about it too. So we're in New Zealand. It haven't arrived here for a long time. Finally, last week, the company called Flight Coffee, that is based in New Zealand, but it's very well internationally known, announced that they have it on offer. I don't know anyone in New Zealand who's shipped that coffee here before or who roasted before, or maybe they will, I don't know. But for now, Flight Coffee, thank you so much. You made my day, if not month. Now let's see if that coffee actually is this delicious as so many people says that it is. There's nothing like the smell of freshly ground coffee. It smells very fruity. Aha! Here it comes! Two minutes and 10 seconds. Very delicate aroma. Let's clean here. Okay, here comes the very first sip.
Oh yeah!
Okay. It's not disappointing. Very nice and round body. So it's very thick on your tongue. There is a little bit of the bitterness in the aftertaste that it dries my mouth out a little. I would prefer if it had a little bit more acidity. There is surprisingly very little fermentation like red wine like flavors to me in this, although it's natural, and that's usually characteristic for natural. It gets a little bit more acidic, like a very nice and fruity acidity. It's very enjoyable cup. The bitterness that I'm getting would be more like a grapefruit bitterness. Red fruits. It is absolutely enjoyable cup. They suggest that it might be a little bit like blackberry jam, which I agree with. I could easily spread it on a piece of toast.
Whoa!
I like it. I don't know if that's the best cup of coffee I've ever had before, but that's not about it. This coffee was extremely amazing to me for its purpose of how it can serve coffee for the future and still be enjoyable. But like I always say, everyone likes something different in their coffee, and I've heard opinions about the Yemenian coffee because that's just an example of many different types of Yemenians you can get. On some YouTube channels, coffee professionals were posting a lot of information about it, their opinions about how they felt after they tasted it, but those opinions were very professional. The goal of this channel though is to attract people who don't have that experience to specialty coffee. I did ask some of my friends who don't have this experience in describing coffee professionally to drink that coffee, and they did the blind test. So they had two coffees, both were naturals. One of those was the Yemenian from Flight Coffee and the second was Ethiopia, also processed naturally. And I know that it's maybe not this fair to compare Yemenian coffee to some different coffee because it's new, it's different, nothing like this has been done before. There is a reason why I asked them to compare those coffee together. Let's see what they said first, and then I'll explain you what was my reason behind this little experiment. They had 2 coffees on the table. The one you see to the left with number 2 on the glass is the Ethiopian coffee processed naturally, and the one to the right is Yemenia, also processed naturally. The goal for the experiment was to find out which of those 2 coffees my friends would liked better. What number of coffee did you like better?
I like the second one better.
Right, so having that, the reason why I asked which one they would like better is because this coffee is expensive, like real expensive. For 150 grams of that coffee, I paid 44 New Zealand dollars. And I know that there are even more expensive coffees out there. I paid for some coffees more and I was happy with them. I haven't questioned the price, the way how it was grown, the way how it was processed. Everything contributes to the quality of the coffee and it was worth the money I spent for it. But I am fully aware that I'm a little bit weird. I won't eat for 3 days, but I can sacrifice and it's okay. I know that coffee from Yemen was always a little bit more expensive because the cost of transportation, production, everything contributes to higher prices. But I also know that for the same price, I would probably find at least 2-3 bags of coffees, bigger bags of coffees, that I would be also very happy with. With such a new product as Yemenia, when the industry was hyped out to try it, I don't know how much of the price is actually the marketing though. And as much as I'd love the idea of having a solution, potential solution for today's coffee industry's problem, I think there has to be more of us who would buy the coffee like this. And of course, this still needs a lot of development and researches and tests done. I'm too little to have opinion of this, but I don't know if the regular coffee drinker, not weirdo like me, but regular coffee drinker who just starts supporting the specialty coffee would be happy to pay this much money for coffee that they don't know. For now, it seems like it's a little bit of a luxury. I'm excited to see how the Yemenian story evolve in the future, what it will bring to the coffee industry. I hope that it contributes strongly to make coffee farmers' lives easier, not only the ones in Yemen, but also all over the world, and so we can all have some benefits from the discovery. I just hope that it will be a little bit more accessible, and I'll keep my fingers crossed for it, because the taste of the coffee is really good. Let's bring more of the Yemenian all over the world. Peace and coffee.
It is indeed beautiful.